No Face Movement, and it's October 13th, 2016. I'm bringing warnings and watches for asteroids, space weather, earthquakes, and Haarp brings and weather till October 17th. Before we get into that, I'm going to put warnings and watches for October 24th till October 27th for possible asteroid impact. And I want people to be prepared for this. In this article, that's going to be linked at the bottom, NASA's warning more than 1,000 asteroids passes close to the Earth each and every day. And they're talking in this asteroid about missions of these robotic mission to visit a large near-Earth asteroid, remove some of its massive and redirect it into stable orbit around the moon. All right, so they're talking this one to take off something from this major asteroid, make it less dense, and make it travel around the moon. All right. We also got Osiris REX, ready to show you guys the code from CNN. Check out that video. We got 2009 ES for the year 2029, 2035, and possibly 2018. We're going to do more research on that. But we got a lot of asteroids near the Earth, all right? And so NASA's warning about it. But between October 24th till October 27th, I'm putting warnings and watches out for this asteroid. It passes 10 lunar distance between Earth and the moon. And this thing always changes its pattern. I'm going to show you videos later on next week. But I am putting warnings and watches for October 24th till October 27th. Between those days, I'm giving you guys ahead of time for 2003 TL4. We're going to get deeper later on. But warnings and watches for 2003 TL4. And remember that blackout with the asteroid coming from the sun? This is it right here, folks. All right, so space weather. Let's start off with space weather. We do have a G1 solar flare that erupted yesterday and it hit Earth today on October 13th. And the energy from that is going to last till October the 14th, 15th. Also on October the 15th, we got a coronal hole that the solar winds will hit Earth on October the 15th. So warnings and watches for possible major earthquakes and major storms. Even storms are developed right now. They're going to expand from the CME that it just hit. All these storms are going to expand. And also from the solar winds that's going to hit October the 15th. So warnings and watches from October 13th to October 15th for storms that get bigger and more electrically charged, and for warnings and watches for moderate to major earthquakes. When we look at the solar flares, warnings and watches, AR259 is off as it's going behind the sun. AR2600 still could produce a minor solar flare, so warnings and watches till October the 14th for that. And AR26002, warnings and watches later on from the 15th to the 17th, so it could produce C-class solar flares. All right, so now let's get into RSOE. And put warnings and watches on earthquakes around the world. And I'm going to just read abnormal earthquakes that's happening and major, moderate to major earthquakes. So we're going to start scrolling down. We had volcano eruptions 2 days ago in Colombia. Japan also had a volcano erupt 5 days ago. When you look at this, when I put these links, so you can check at the beginning of my page, just go to the beginning, and you can see that there's a volcano, right? Also do that, like, in New Zealand. It's on top. You see that red? It's on top of a volcano. So let's see if we see any abnormal earthquakes. All right. California, 2.4, California. We had a 4.7 in New Zealand, 4.7 New Zealand, 4.1 Ecuador. All right, 4.7 Vanuatu. That's on top of volcano. So warnings and watches for volcano eruption around Vanuatu. 4.7 Vanuatu. All right. Warnings and watches around Alaska volcano. Maybe preempted before volcano eruption, because we had 2.5 in Alaska, 2.0 in Alaska, 2.0 in Alaska. All right, folks, so be prepared. 4.1 in Canada. Now, that's abnormal. So warnings and watches for the Northwest Territory for a moderate to major earthquake in Canada. So around Vancouver, you guys had around there 4.1. So warnings and watches for moderate to major earthquake. 5.1 Philippines. 5.0 Philippines. This could be before shock, so warnings and watches for moderate. We had a 4.2 in Argentina. Warnings and watches for moderate to major earthquakes. And we had two more 2.0s in California, a 2.2 in New Zealand on top of a mountain. We had a 5.0 in Japan, and this should be highlighted. Another 5.0 in Japan, so moderate to major earthquakes in Japan. Two more earthquakes in California. We had another 2.9 in Alaska. Let's scroll down. 4.2 in Bolivia. Warnings and watches. South America. 2.2, 2.2 California. Ain't nothing big, but warnings and watches for moderate. All the way up to Vancouver. 5.2 Tonga. 5.6 Tonga. 5.2 Tonga. Warnings and watches on the east coast of the Pacific Ocean for moderate to major earthquakes. We're going to get into it in 1 second. We had a 3.3 in Russia on top of a mountain. Another 2.3, 2.3 in California. 5.1 in New Zealand. Warnings and watches, New Zealand, folks. Alright. And let's go down, see if we see any more bigger ones. That's all of it. Alright, so let's go to the tech map. Let's see where all this energy from the CME is going. So you could see increase in storms in the Pacific Rim and in northern South America around Colombia and Costa Rica, Panama, all the way down to Peru. All right, so warnings and watches for major storms next 24 till October the 17th. All right, let's go to the tech plate. See where the highest and the most pressure come from these solar winds hitting the Earth, and you can see it right here. So warnings and watches for moderate earthquakes out here in the Caribbean. Warnings and watches in Central North South America for moderate to major earthquakes, and warnings and watches down in the southern part of South America, right in the middle, as you can see. Warnings and watches between that whole region, right in the middle of South America. Warnings and watches for moderate to major earthquake. I mean, earthquake between 5.0 and plus. All right. Same out here in the middle of the Pacific Eastern. Warnings and watches for moderate to major earthquakes. All right. Warning watches for moderate to major earthquakes around New Zealand, Indonesia, Japan, North and South Korea, Taiwan, and southern China. All right, folks, and India. All right. So warnings and watches till the 17th, and you can see it right here, folks. All right, you see the light color yellow as it gets in that. That's why you see that earthquake in Vancouver and on the west coast. So warnings and watches for a moderate earthquake of 5.0 to a 7.0. It could be majors or beyond. So warnings and watches for 5.0 or bigger on the west coast of the United States and around the west coast of Canada through Vancouver all the way up to Alaska. Warnings and watches for moderate to major earthquakes right there on Panama. Warnings and watches for all middle of South America for moderate to major earthquake. And let's zoom in. Right smack in Peru, Bolivia. Warnings and watches for major earthquake. In the ocean, in the eastern part, central part of the Pacific, south part ocean, the southern hemisphere. Warnings and watches for moderate to major all the way over from the middle, from Hawaii. Warnings and watches for moderate to major earthquakes all through from China, South China. Warnings and watches for moderate to major earthquakes. Warnings and watches for moderate to major earthquakes in Indonesia, Thailand, the Philippines, Taiwan. Warnings and watches for moderate earthquakes in Japan, because this system can move anytime. Warnings and watches in the Indian Ocean till the 17th. Now let's get into Intocast. All right. So we all know about Hurricane Nicole. She's been around for a while, since Hurricane Matthew. Since last week, it's Category 2, and Bermuda just got nailed by it. And they're saying this thing could go back, is going out to sea. But we're going to show you how this storm could have possibly hit the East Coast. All right, this storm was meant to hit the East Coast, but they shock it back out to the ocean. As we're going down, I'm going to keep watch out between 10 north, 20 north, 15 north. There's a wave coming off, and that might be the next possible tropical storm or depression, maybe hurricane, Otto. So I'm going to keep you guys informed on that. when we go to the Earth globe, you can see the winds and stuff, and you can see Hurricane Nicole. It nailed the Bermuda and haven't had a hurricane in years. I'm talking about 20, 30 years this size. All right, and it did a lot of devastation. So hope you guys are safe in Bermuda. But when you look at this thing, they're saying that this thing is going back out to the west, to the ocean. All right. Now, if I was looking at this thing right now, you see the wind pushing down from the jet stream through, going down to Florida. But you can see an opening. All right, as this one is circling back up. Right here is an opening. I would put warnings and watches for the hurricane in Boston, Massachusetts, and Maine, Newfoundland, because that's where this hurricane would have been heading, because you got this big system up here in the northern by Greenland pushing, and then you got this high all over America. And people don't realize that this is a high, though, all over America, with a little low off the coast, but you can see the high, and this thing would have just pushed west. Alright, and it would have made landfall as a Category 1, the possible tropical storm in Massachusetts, Newfoundland, or Maine, and Vermont. But, like I said, I'm going to show you guys on the Mimic map that have been shocked back out to sea. You can see, this is the microwave, alright, for the North Atlantic. Let's watch it real, folks. You got shock there, shock there, shock there, shock there, shock there. Alright. This thing been hit with Haarp a whole bunch of times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see how it's starting to move, and all of a sudden off the coast, when it's starting to move towards the east coast, the upper east coast, you can see as it's about to start moving, you see the shock coming right off New Jersey, New York, and Massachusetts. And you can see how it pushed the whole system back out east into the Atlantic Ocean. So check that out. There's a microwave right here. Bam. And it pushed this system back out. Now let's watch. You can see the Haarp rings of white. There's a Haarp ring. There's a Haarp ring. This thing's being shocked by Haarp, but you can see how it gets pushed back out to sea. And if that next red didn't do it, this hurricane would have been coming towards Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Delaware. Alright, folks. And I would have put warnings, and it's still a possibility. I am going to still put a warning till October 7th for Hurricane Nicole. Because they might go back to the east, but from that picture, from the Mimic, this system was meant to go to the east coast. Alright, and we're lucky that next red did that. Alright, because you can see it's heading right back out to the ocean just from that push. But anything could happen, since there is a giant high over America. This is perfect weather, folks, for that hurricane to hit the east coast. So I'm glad that they did that. But I'm still going to put watches out for Hurricane Nicole for the upper northeast. Even though that next red shot it back off course, as you can see. Bam. And I'm going to be watching this right here, 15 north. Because from them bashing it back out to sea, it gives this thing a little momentum right here. So this might be our next tropical storm called Otto. And as I look, remember all these storms are going to increase till Monday, till October the 17th, because we got the CME and we got the solar winds coming in. So it's going to electrify these storms and make them bigger, and earthquake watches. All right, and we could go to the East Coast to see if we see any Haarp rings, to put warnings and watches, because we did see a big next red push the storm back out into the ocean. You can see it coming right off. All right, so there's a giant high over the Midwest and Northeast. I do see Haarp rings in Chicago. So warnings and watches for moderate to major storm in 72 hours from Sunday till Monday, October 16, 17, moderate to major storms in Chicago, Illinois, northern Illinois. Uh, right now we got a high. The system is going to push over, but of course these storms are going to get stronger. There's a cold front right now where Illinois is, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio. And it's going to push it right out. And we got this big system coming in next couple of days. So, and you can see I'm going to put warnings and watches on the border of Texas and Louisiana next 24 from right now to 72 hours. Warnings and watches for southern Texas. From Haarp rings, as you can see these Haarp rings uniting the sky. You can also see Haarp rings over the central plains in the north. So warnings and watches for all northern central plains. And you can see this massive system coming on. And that system's going to probably take between the 17th and 19th to make it over to the Midwest. But warnings and watches for the whole northern central plains to the Midwest for the next 24 to 70, from now to 72 hours. And then from 24 to 72 hours, warnings and watches for moderate storms around Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. Warnings and watches down here, New Mexico, Mississippi, Louisiana, definitely the southern part of Texas on the borderline of Louisiana. That system is going to move over. Warnings and watches for moderate to major storms still in Florida and around Havana and Cuba and the Key West. You can see the major Haarp rings. Alright, this is the No Face Moon. Please like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Facebook. We're moving until next time. And still warnings and watches. Remember, 24 to the 27 for Asteroid Impact. We're going to bring more videos next week. This is the movement. Till next time, facing off.